My name's David. I'm 33 years old, live alone in a modest two-bedroom apartment, and until recently, I thought I was doing everything right by my family. I've always been the dependable one, the fixer, the guy who gets the last-minute calls when the Wi-Fi is down or someone's credit card bounces. I don't complain, I don't ask for much, and I don't make waves. That's probably why I didn't see it coming, why I thought I mattered more than I apparently did. My younger brother, Matt, got married last weekend. He's 29, charming in that smirky, Instagram-filtered way, and a professional freeloader who somehow always lands on his feet. His fiancée, Camille, is all curated elegance and quiet judgment. She's one of those people who never says anything directly rude, but makes you feel like your shirt's wrinkled just by looking at you. They got engaged last year, and despite never really bonding with Camille's side of the family, I smiled through the engagement dinners, helped with the slideshow, even covered the down payment for their photographer when their preferred vendor dropped out. Matt promised he'd pay me back. He hasn't. Of course. Still, I was genuinely happy for him. I showed up at the venue early that morning, dressed in my best navy suit, envelope in my jacket pocket with a check that, frankly, I shouldn't have written. But it was my brother's big day. I figured maybe this would be the event where the years of being quietly dependable would finally be acknowledged. You know, a proper seat at the table, a toast from Matt, a moment where I didn't feel like the family afterthought. I was wrong. When I got to the guest book table, the woman checking people in gave me a tight smile. "And you are?" she asked, even though I had RSVP'd weeks ago. David Taylor, groom's brother." She blinked. "Oh, right." She flipped through the seating chart binder like I was an uninvited +1. "You're table 14. I glanced at the seating diagram she spun around. There wasn't a table number next to my name, just a scribble. I leaned closer. "That says by restroom, right?" She shrugged. "It's still a table." Nope, it wasn't. When I found it, past the buffet line, around the corner from the ice machine, practically pressed against the men's bathroom door, it wasn't even a full table. It was one of those fold-out card tables they rent for overflow. My name wasn't typed like everyone else's either. It was scrawled across a cocktail napkin in blue pen, taped down with what looked like a piece of chewing gum. At first, I actually laughed. I thought maybe this was a mix-up, a placeholder. I texted Matt, "Hey, I think there's a mistake with my table. I'm next to the bathroom." He didn't respond. I figured he was busy. Fair. So I walked around to find someone in the wedding party. I found Camille's mom instead, standing near the bar and talking to a small huddle of women in champagne-colored dresses. I approached and smiled politely. "Hi. Sorry to interrupt. Just wondering if you know who's handling the seating? I think there's been a mix-up with mine." She turned slowly, eyes scanning me like I was holding a plate of food too close to her silk blouse. "Are you the brother?" "Yes, David." She raised her eyebrows. "Right. Well, the front section is for family and close friends." I blinked. "I am family." She sipped her drink. "I meant family that's consistently involved." That stung. I don't know why. Maybe because it was so calmly dismissive, like someone saying, "Oh, we don't need you," but with a smile so subtle you feel guilty for being hurt. I walked away without responding. Found Matt a few minutes later outside by the photo booth. He looked half nervous, half excited like a kid about to perform in a school play. I approached him slowly, trying not to ruin the vibe, but I couldn't let it go. "Hey man, can we talk for a sec?" He turned, grinning. "Dude, you made it. Everything good?" Not really. They've got me seated next to the bathroom. There's no table number, just a napkin with my name on it." His smile faltered. "Yeah, we ran out of space up front. Camille's family is huge. And mine's what, disposable?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Don't make a scene, okay? It's just a seat." That's when it hit me. The way he said it. Like I was being difficult. Like asking not to sit next to the urinal cake air freshener was some outrageous diva move. I looked at him for a long moment, waiting, hoping for him to realize how ridiculous it all was. That I paid for part of this wedding, that I spent hours editing his proposal video, that I had always been in his corner. And here I was, scribbled on a napkin. I smiled then. A real one. Calm. Almost serene. Because that's when I knew. I didn't know him anything anymore. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the gift envelope, and held it between two fingers. "You're right," I said. "No scene." Then I turned around and walked back through the crowd. No announcement, no drama. Just quiet steps past rows of beautifully arranged tables, past smiling relatives and Instagram filters and centerpiece candles. I walked straight out the side door, envelope still in hand. 10 minutes later, while I was driving off the lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a wedding staffer waving at a DJ, motioning him to come over. I don't know what exactly happened next, but I do know one thing. I'd paid the DJ deposit, and I'd called the vendor earlier that week to say the balance would be handled on the day of. By me, if I wanted to. Let's just say 2 songs later, the music cut off mid-chorus. And that's when the real scene started, without me even needing to be in the room. I didn't look back. The moment I drove off, a strange calm settled over me. Not the triumphant, dramatic exit kind of calm. More like the, I'm finally done trying kind. The kind that comes after years of holding your tongue, showing up even when you're not wanted, and swallowing disappointment so often it becomes part of your personality. It wasn't rage that drove me out of that wedding. It was clarity. I didn't go home right away. I drove to the small cafe I used to visit with my dad before he passed. Quiet place. No music, just soft clinks of cutlery and warm lighting. I ordered a coffee, sat by the window, and opened the envelope I was supposed to leave in the gift box. Inside was a check for $1,500. I stared at it for a while, then tore it cleanly down the middle. Then again, and again, until the pieces fluttered like cheap confetti into my lap. A notification buzzed on my phone. Group chat. Matt's wedding day party popper. Someone sent a confused message. Hey, why did the music stop? Then another. DJ says he's packing up? What the heck? Then one from Matt himself, direct to me. Did you seriously just leave? What is going on with the DJ? I didn't respond. I knew he'd figure it out eventually. I'd hired that DJ through a mutual friend and made the payment arrangements privately. I told him I'd cover the full cost as a wedding gift. Only if the music went uninterrupted and the setup included a full light show and speakers inside and out. The contract was in my name. The balance hadn't been paid. The moment I told the DJ to leave, he had every legal right to pack up and bounce. And he did, right after Camille's cousin's off-key karaoke rendition of Thinking Out Loud. I took one last sip of coffee, then left the pieces of the check under the saucer and walked out. By the time I got home, my phone had exploded. 23 missed calls, voicemails, texts, some from Matt, some from our mom, a couple from Camille's relatives who I didn't even know had my number. One of them read, "You ruined their wedding." I actually laughed, out loud, because I hadn't ruined anything. They just finally noticed what it looked like without me holding it all together. Later that night, Matt showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock, loud and fast, the kind you do when you're angry but still hoping someone will answer. I didn't. I watched through the peephole as he paced outside, phone in his hand, probably typing up another guilt trip. Eventually, he slid something under the door. A folded piece of printer paper with my name scrawled on the front. I opened it a few minutes later. No apology. No explanation. Just, you didn't have to make it personal. That was rich. I almost texted him back, but I stopped myself. Because for once, I didn't need to explain why I walked away. I didn't need to justify choosing dignity over a discounted meal and a seat by the urinals. Over the next few days, the fallout began. Camille's mom went full scorched earth, blaming Matt for letting his family embarrass them. Apparently, without music, the reception turned into awkward silence. Guests left early. Camille cried in the hallway. A few of her friends even posted passive-aggressive comments about how some people just don't know how to support love. My mom called once, left a voicemail, something about family sticking together, and you should have just let it go for one day. I saved it but didn't reply. That line, just for one day, rang in my head. Because it was never just one day. It was birthdays skipped, favors forgotten, debts unpaid, and gratitude never spoken. It was every time I let myself be the doormat to keep the peace. I took the week off work, not because I needed it, but because I finally realized I deserved space. To breathe, to think, to stop reacting to people who only remember me when I'm useful. And during that time, something unexpected happened. I got an email from the DJ. "Hey David, just wanted to say, never had a client pull out like that mid-wedding, but totally understand once I heard what happened. If you ever need anything, let me know. You've got class, man." I smiled, not because of the compliment, but because it reminded me I wasn't crazy. I was being treated like an afterthought. And walking away wasn't petty. It was overdue. I didn't go to the post-wedding brunch or respond to the follow-up texts Matt eventually sent, this time trying to play the middleman between Camille and me. I didn't even bother explaining my side of things, because if they really cared, they wouldn't have needed the story. They'd have known already. The last I heard, Camille was telling people I ruined her big day. Matt hadn't corrected her. That said more than enough. But I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending that being family means accepting disrespect in a tux. And when people finally stopped clapping, that was the sound of the real truth echoing through the room. The silence lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks without a single word from Matt. Not a text, not a call, not even one of those "you up?" late-night messages he used to send when he needed something fixed, funded, or forgiven. I thought maybe he finally got the hint. Maybe my disappearing act at the wedding had hit harder than he expected. I wasn't counting on an apology. Matt doesn't do those. But I figured he'd come around eventually with some kind of half-hearted "bro, let's just move on" message that blamed me for overreacting without ever acknowledging what actually happened. Instead, I got something else. An email. Subject line, "Event refund request, urgent." It came from the wedding venue. Not to me directly, but to my business inbox, the one I use for freelance consulting. See, what most people in my family forget, or maybe never understood, is that I run the financial backend for a handful of small event vendors. DJs, florists, photographers. I don't advertise it, I don't post about it on social media. It's a side hustle that started years ago and just kept growing quietly, under the radar. The DJ Matt used? I didn't just hire him. I represent him. And apparently, Camille's mom had tried filing a complaint about the abrupt service termination during the reception. She claimed they were owed a refund, that the DJ had acted unprofessionally by cutting the music halfway through and embarrassed the family. The email was forwarded to me from the DJ himself, with a short message at the top. Didn't respond yet. Thought you'd want to see this first. I stared at my screen for a full minute. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed. Matt. He was calling. This time, I answered. "Hello," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Okay." He started immediately, not even bothering with a greeting. "I don't know what game you're playing, but Camille's mom is livid, and the venue's threatening to charge us a late fee because the balance was never paid." I said, calmly. "Sounds like a tough spot." He ignored the jab. Can you talk to the DJ and fix it?" "Fix what exactly?" I asked. "The fact that your wedding's music stopped because your family seated me next to a mop bucket? Or the part where I was asked not to make a scene after being treated like I was crashing my own brother's wedding?" There was a pause on the other end. I could practically hear him trying to figure out how to spin this. "Look," he finally said, "I didn't realize you were that upset. I thought it wasn't a big deal. Camille's mom handled the seating, and you know how she is." "Yeah," I cut in. "I do know how she is. And so do you. And you let it happen. I didn't mean for you to feel disrespected. Then you should have said something when I brought it up. Not told me not to make a scene like I was some drama queen ruining your big day." Another pause. I let the silence hang. Matt exhaled. "So what now? Are you going to block the refund?" I smiled faintly. "No, I'm not going to block anything. I'm going to let the contract speak for itself. And the contract says the full balance is due on the day of the event or services terminate immediately. The deposit was non-refundable, which means your DJ walked, legally. If Camille's mom has a problem with that, she can take it up with me in arbitration. But between you and me, I wouldn't recommend it." There was a long beat. Then, flatly, "You're serious?" "Dead serious," I replied. "But that's not all." And that's when I pulled up the document I had prepared 2 nights ago. See, I'd had time to think about how many other things I'd done for Matt without ever being asked. The camera I loaned him 3 years ago that he never returned. The time I helped him dispute a fraudulent charge on his old credit card and spent 2 hours on hold because he didn't have time. The rent he couldn't cover in college that I paid in full. And then there was the wedding itself. The slideshow? I made it. The sound system they used for the ceremony? Mine. The framed welcome sign outside the venue? I designed, printed, and paid for it. And I had receipts for everything, all compiled in a neat little invoice. I forwarded it to him. "Check your inbox," I said. A second later, I heard his phone ping. "What is this?" he asked. "That's an itemized list of every cost I covered for your wedding. Stuff you asked for, and stuff I offered before you decided I wasn't family enough to sit at a real table. The total's at the bottom." He didn't say anything. So I continued. You have 30 days. After that, I file a small claims case. And trust me, I've kept track of everything. You're kidding me. You're seriously billing me. I sat back in my chair, calm as ever. No, Matt. I'm finally treating you like a client. Because that's all I ever was to you, apparently, a resource. So let's make it official. He cursed under his breath. Then louder. Camille's gonna lose it. She's already pissed enough. I chuckled. She should have thought of that before treating me like the bathroom attendant. There was a slam on the other end, probably a cabinet, or maybe the table. You're blowing this out of proportion, he growled. And you're finally learning what happens when you treat people like props. Congratulations on your marriage. Then I hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. I gave Matt the full 30 days. Not because I expected him to pay, but because I wanted to watch what people do when they finally have to face the consequences of the comfort they took for granted. For the first week, it was radio silence. No emails, no calls, no attempts to negotiate. I figured they were hoping I'd cool off, let it blow over, let them return to that same old script. David's dependable. David won't stay mad. David always folds. But I didn't fold. I filed the paperwork on day 31. Small claims court isn't glamorous. It's not dramatic. It's a plain room, cheap carpet, and tired chairs. But it's where people like me go when we're done asking nicely. I included every receipt, every screenshot, every email thread where Matt agreed to cover me later. The slideshow file with my signature. The wedding contract with the DJ. Even the invoice from the welcome sign that Camille's mom had gushed over, claiming it was the only good taste from our side. And this time, my name wasn't scribbled on a napkin. It was at the top of every page. The court date was set 2 months out. And suddenly, I wasn't the only one making moves. Around week 5, I got an unexpected call from my mom. I let it ring the first time, then the second. On the third, I picked up. Not because I wanted to talk to her, but because I was curious what version of the story she'd been told. Her voice was syrupy. Careful. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? I'm fine, I said flatly. You? Oh, just trying to keep things peaceful. You know how it is. Your brother's under a lot of pressure. The wedding fallout, the legal stuff, it's all gotten out of hand. I said nothing. She continued. He told me you're suing him. Is that true? I didn't answer her question. I asked one of my own. Where did you sit at the wedding? She hesitated. What? Your table. Where was it? Near the dance floor, I think. Close to the stage. So you saw where I was placed. Another pause. I mean, David, I didn't. You didn't say anything. You didn't even look at me. I was 2 feet from the bathroom. The staff thought I was part of the wait crew. You smiled for photos while I sat next to a trash can. Her voice dropped. Camille's mom did the seating, and Matt let her. There was a long silence before she spoke again. He said you embarrassed him, that you sabotaged the reception. I nearly laughed. No, Mom. I just stopped sponsoring it. I hung up. After that, the smear campaign began. Camille's friends took to Instagram with cryptic captions about jealous family members and grown men acting like toddlers. Matt posted a filtered black and white photo of him and Camille kissing beneath their floral arch, with the caption, "Despite the chaos, we're still standing. Stronger than ever." I didn't engage. I let them spin their narrative. Because while they were busy playing for pity, I was preparing for court. And when the day finally came, I walked in wearing the same navy suit I wore to the wedding. But this time, my name wasn't written in pen. It was printed on the court docket in clean, black ink. Taylor, David versus Taylor. Matthew, breach of contract, reimbursement of services rendered. Matt looked nervous when I walked in. Camille wasn't with him. He wore a wrinkled blazer, no tie, and a look that flickered between irritation and regret. We didn't speak, just sat on opposite ends of the bench, like strangers. The judge was efficient. Asked for the summary. I provided my folder, 2 copies. One for the court, one for Matt. When the judge flipped through the documents, she raised an eyebrow. You provided graphic design, a/V equipment, entertainment booking, and financial deposits? Yes, Your Honor. Did the defendant agree to reimburse you for these? Yes. I've included messages where he explicitly says he would. Matt tried to argue. He stammered something about family generosity and gift culture, but the judge cut him off. Mr. Taylor, gifts are voluntary. Promises to repay expenses, especially those backed by documentation, are not. Unless you can prove these were unsolicited, the burden falls on you. He had no proof, only attitude. The judgment was in my favor. He owed me $3,212.76 plus court fees. It wasn't a life-changing sum, but it felt like winning back every piece of dignity they'd chipped away at over the years. I didn't gloat. I didn't say a word as he stormed out of the courtroom. I just stood there, hands at my sides, letting the silence speak for itself. But that wasn't the end. A week later, a certified envelope arrived at my door. Inside was a check from Matt. The full amount. No note. No apology. Just the cold weight of obligation finally acknowledged. I deposited it. Then, I did something that surprised even me. I used a portion of the money to buy a flight. Not a vacation. Not a retreat. A visit to our childhood home. The house had been in disrepair for years. After Dad passed, nobody kept it up. Matt didn't care. Mom wanted to sell it. But I had quietly bought out her share 3 years ago when she needed money for dental work and never brought it up again. Now, I returned, not to fix the house, but to clean it out. Donate what could be salvaged. Toss what couldn't. And then I sold it. The final nail in that family dynamic. A few days after the sale, I received one last call from Camille. Not Matt. Camille. She didn't bother with pleasantries. You're vindictive, you know that, she snapped. You couldn't just let it go. You had to make a show. I smiled as I stirred my coffee. No show. I just stopped letting you treat me like a background prop. You embarrassed us, she spat. In front of everyone. And yet, here I am. Debt-free. Dignity intact. Can you say the same? She hung up. And that was it. No more calls. No more texts. No more invitations to play the loyal side character in someone else's story. I moved on. Quietly. Calmly. Fully. I bought a new suit. Not for court. Not for weddings. Just because it felt good to look like someone who didn't need to apologize for taking up space. I threw a small dinner for my closest friends. People who actually saw me. People who didn't seat me near a bathroom or forget to say thank you. We laughed, we toasted, we danced in my apartment kitchen to music I paid for. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for someone to notice me. I was finally standing in a story that was mine. No napkin name tag. No refund envelope. Just me, seen, steady, and free. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.